And Reverend Al, this is something you've talked about for many, many years. We've talked about this for many, many years. Democrats have long considered, especially white woke Democrats, have long believed that people of color, that black voters, that Hispanic voters are just as progressive and just as woke as them. You have been saying all along that the latte liberals, as you call them, have it all wrong. You now look at Joe Biden's polling numbers. He is bleeding support from black voters and massive support from Hispanic voters. Do you think it may be because of this disconnect between the Democratic establishment in Washington, D.C., and where people of color live politically?
Certainly a lot of it is that. When you look at the fact that it seems that a lot of those in the Democratic Party leadership are playing to quiet those that are noisy rather than deal with their base voters that are concerned about inflation, that are concerned about crime going up in many areas, that are concerned about issues like Roe versus Wade, and are concerned about policing and other issues. And I think that what has seemingly bothered me a lot is that this tendency of whoever yells the loudest, that's who they are dealing with, rather than understanding they don't represent the overwhelming majority of the people that you need to come out and vote. And one of the things that I've seen is that Democratic candidates, Democratic presidents, you brought up Biden's numbers, were more effective when they knew how to compartmentalize the noisemakers along with those that were the block. President Obama was very good at that, even Clinton to some degree. And I think that what we've seen, even those of us like me that made noise, understood we were trying to get attention on certain issues. We are looking at something that I've not seen, where just the noisemakers are being heard by some of the leadership in the party, rather than understand, okay, they have a point of view we need to hear, but we've got to deal with the mass base. And I think that they become captive of their own noisemakers, which is to their detriment.
You know, Robert, we're always seeing political analysis coming on this show, coming on every show, looking at the last election results and talking about how this is the future of the republic, the political future. It's cast in stone. Of course, 2008, we heard about that emerging permanent Democratic majority. 2010, it was the Tea Party. Then in 2012, after President Obama won another massive victory, we heard everybody talking about that blue wall that Democrats had set up with the Electoral College, and there was no way Republicans would ever win the Electoral College again because there was a blue wall that protected Democratic candidates. I want to ask you about three states that I find to be the most fascinating, most perplexing since President Obama left office in 2016. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Those are three states that I always called fool's gold for Republicans because they would always throw money into those three states. And other than Michigan, it seemed like they always lost. Now you go county by county, and let's go ahead and put Iowa in there, too. You go county by county. President Obama did so well in a lot of counties where, you know, he may have lost a county, but instead of losing it by 60 points, he'd lose it by 30 points. And you added that up, and he owned the industrial Midwest. What has happened to the Democratic Party's lock on the industrial Midwest?
Yeah, it's a great question, Joe. I think what you've seen, and you saw this with the acceleration starting in the 2014 election and then the advent of Donald Trump in 2015 and 2016, is he was really able to capture those non-college, particularly non-college white voters that Democrats and particularly President Obama had done well with in many of those upper Midwestern states. And, you know, we see this even now in the national polling, that the Democratic Party is now more aligned with voters that are college educated and the Republicans with non-college educated voters. And I think you've seen, you could throw in Ohio, a state that President Obama won twice, that now feels potentially out of the grasp of Democrats for quite some time, despite having, I think, a great Senate candidate there. But I think you've really seen voters that have been talked to about their fears and their concerns, but also really their economic anxieties in a way that has changed the fortunes for the Republican Party, particularly in the rural areas of those states.
Jen, I want to ask you about those same 3 states. You look at some of the races right now. Tim Ryan's looking pretty good in Ohio. Right now, Gretchen Whitmer is looking pretty good in Michigan. At the end of the day, and of course, Fetterman in Pennsylvania, not only looking pretty good, but my God, the ads that he keeps throwing, the tweets that he keeps throwing, Dr. Oz's way. I mean, just dizzying, keeping him off balance every single day. I'm curious. I'm curious, does this tell you that at the end of the day, so much just depends on the candidate herself, the candidate himself? Who is the best political athlete?
Yeah, I mean, this is a clear advantage that Democrats have across the board in a historically difficult year, is they have very good candidates, and particularly in Michigan, very good candidates and a ton of money. I mean, Democrats are pretty much Senate, the gubernatorial candidates are outraising their Republican counterparts across the board. And then in Michigan and Pennsylvania, you have just 2 really great stars that are very well suited for the states that they are running in, with both Whitmer and Fetterman. That is just, I mean, I've never seen anybody have so much fun running a Senate race as the Fetterman campaign. And the other thing, so I think that, a few months ago, I may have thought Whitmer and Fetterman were in a tough spot, but abortion, Jan 6, and guns, there may be marginal issues, but there may be marginal issues that get those 2 candidates over the top.
Coming up next, how Republicans may just manage to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. With some of the extreme candidates the party has nominated in key races. Our special look at the critical midterm elections, now just 100 days away, continues after a short break.